And welcome to another edition of Anthony and Ari Unfiltered, a weekly radio show with former Congressman Anthony Esposito and Inspector General, Department of Labor, in conversation with Assemblyman Ari Brown on the hot button issues of the day. Here now are your hosts.
Thanks, Zev. Good morning. Odd times we're in today. I'm here with the great Congressman Anthony Esposito. Such odd times. The government's closed. It's now open. What do you say, Congressman?
Well, what I will say is, first, it's great to always be with you, and I want to thank everyone for tuning in on WNEW 102.7 and WSNR 620 AM. So, yeah, I mean, it's the world's upside down, really, what it comes down to. I mean, if you think about it, we just came out of the longest government shutdown in American history, and the bill that was passed back again in the House of Representatives was the exact same framework that started this all. So what does that tell you?
43 days?
Well, yeah, well, it tells you that this was about the Democrats putting politics over people. This was about them providing health care to those who haven't earned it and illegal migrants. This was about trying to create a different narrative, for the elections that had gone on across the country.
And they gained traction. I have to say, it hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
But what did they gain at the end of the day?
What did they gain? They gained, I think what we gained, I think the American people now realize even more than ever, not just with the election of Zohar Mamdani as the mayor of city of New York, but what we've realized throughout this shutdown is that the far left progressives are the one leading this party, that Chuck Schumer is really the leader of a rudderless ship, and that he is taking his direction from people like AOC, Rashida Tlaib, and Ilhan Omar. And what we also did see is, thankfully, we saw 8 Democrats in the Senate who realized that, wow, my reelection could be at stake here because of the disastrous decisions that my party's making. So I'm going to jump ship and I'm going to vote on this package that the Republicans put together, break the filibuster, pass it, send it to the House of Representatives. And then, the House of Representatives passes this legislation. There was 2 Republicans that didn't vote for it, usually the 2 that don't vote on anything. And then a small handful of Democrats who I believe supported it. I mean, you got Jared Golden from Maine who supported it because he's not running again. And you have others that supported it. And what it comes down to, they're concerned about their reelection. It baffled me that you have a guy like Tom Suozzi, I talk about Long Island, a guy like Tom Suozzi, who we don't agree on most things, but he did vote for this to end the shutdown and move forward. Laura Gillen votes no. And on top of the reopening of the government, in last night's bill, there was also 3 appropriations bill. You had you had Millicom Villiers, which is the military and veterans funding, voted no. You have the Ledge branch, which obviously is the funding to run the government, voted no. And then a third appropriations bill voted no. And a lot of this had to do with community projects that were coming back to communities that we love and care about. So if not for the Republicans, none of that would have passed. So I have to say, what's the point of her being there?
Congress, I say every night after I say my prayers or during my prayers that my congressman will come back into office. No one knows the issues at hand that are important to the American people like you do. You have your pulse on our federal government and more so on our local government. People recognize that. I thank you for that. Let's circle in on the filibuster. I'm so unsure about this. I understand the president said we should get rid of the filibuster because the moment the Democrats come into office, they're going to get rid of it. Let's expand on that a little bit.
So I think that what it came down to over the last 41 or so days, I think there was a lot of frustration. And granted, President Trump should be frustrated, right? I mean, he has come into this job as president the second time, and I mean, I would argue that there has never been as much accomplished in the first 9 months or 10 months of an administration than I've seen with President Trump. I mean, just the other night I was in Florida with Tom Homan and Kristi Noem, and they talked about the fact that the border's secure. I mean, we went on for years debating. We debated immigration. We didn't need any of that. We didn't need the law. We needed a new president of the United States. President Trump delivered. You talk about brokering peace. President Trump has done that. He's worked on releasing the hostages, which is near and dear to our heart. But what it comes down to is during this shutdown, he was frustrated because it did put a halt on a lot of the programs, a lot of the things that he wanted to do. So
Let me ask you, by removing the filibuster, how would that have changed? Just to the people who don't understand.
right.
Clearly.
So when you pass something, if something has to pass through the House, on most votes, sometimes there's votes where you need 2/3 of the House. Like for instance, when George Santos was expelled from the House of Representatives, that's something that you need 2/3 of the House for. In this situation, all you needed was an up and down vote. So you need to win by one. In the Senate, in order for something to come out of the Senate, you need to get 60 votes. And obviously with the small and slim majority that the Republicans have, the only way that you're going to get something out with 60 votes is to have some Democrats come up.
So, Congressman, let me ask you, so our listeners understand, where are we now with the filibuster?
As of right now, we are in the same place. There's 60 votes. It moves out of the Senate, and depending on at what stage it is in a bill, at that point it could either go back to the House, which it did last night, or in a majority of the cases, the House would have already sent it to the Senate, and from there it would go to the president's desk.
You touched on something that I typically don't like to get into this on this show, but you brought it up, and I'm with you with this thing. Why did Laura Gillen vote no? Really, I mean, not helping her constituents, and certainly not helping her base. What was her thinking to hurt the American people like this?
I couldn't, thankfully, I don't think the same way Laura Gillen does, and I would remind she tries to claim that she's bipartisan, which is total nonsense because last night proved it. She voted along the same side as Chuck Schumer did when it left the Senate. She voted exactly how Hakeem Jeffries from Brooklyn told her to. She voted the same way as AOC and Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar. And in the midst of all of it, some of the funding in last night's 3 appropriation bills had to do with SNAP and WIC. So she just spent the last 30-something, 40-something days talking about people not getting their WIC or SNAP benefits. And last night she again voted no. And the fact is that the American people were sick of it. I mean, you had air traffic controllers that weren't getting paid. You had slowdowns in our airports. You had federal employees that went two whole pay cycles without getting paid. You talk about, they always say, forget the closing of the government. It's the reopening of the government. That's the real process. That reopening the government is sometimes harder than shutting it down. And if you want to be bipartisan, I mean, you can look back, and I've said it before, and I've even gotten criticized by some of my, conservative supporters saying, really, what's the point of being bipartisan? Well, I think sometimes there is room for compromise to get things done. But I voted, I believe, either 5 or 6 times for a clean CR. And that was why. Did I agree with it? Absolutely not. It was inflated Biden spending.
But as a whole, it was good for our government.
But I did it to not shut down our government.
I want to touch on the All-Electric Building Act. But speaking of electric, the electric is crazy in here. So give me one moment, Congressman, to fix that. And we're back. All-Electric Building Act. A crazy bill that went through the Assembly and the Senate and to the governor's desk in New York, whereby anybody who would build a new project, even a single family home, wouldn't allow to do anything but have it powered by electric. Could you imagine? No gas, no propane, purely electric. I'm in my house 35 years. My electric bill was very, very little. Was it $20, $30, maybe during the summer 35 years ago? Now, I'm a guy all by myself. All my kids have grown out of the house with grandchildren, and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. How can seniors afford that? Right before it was about to be enacted into place. Well, it was enacted in place. Right as it was about to move forward, one of the courts put a hold on it, which gave a reprieve to Governor Hochul because she knew there was going to be a massive amount of pushback. I mean, construction 50 years. Every building association has pushed against this because it would decimate the local economy. What drives our economy? Housing starts. That's it. Without housing starts in New York, they talk about affordable housing. You're going to make a house all electric.
It's never going to be affordable.
It's not going to be affordable. We don't have the infrastructure in New York. You go anywhere else in the country, or most places in the country, these cockamamie telephone poles with our transformers sitting on there. We're going to power homes with all electric. What are people going to spend $2,000 a month to heat their homes?
Well, that's why under Kathy Hochul's failed leadership, I mean, I would argue she's probably one of the most inept governors in the nation. That's why, when you say you want to be on the leaderboard, we don't want to be on the leaderboard of out migration. And because of her, we are. And why? Because people just can't afford to live here anymore. I mean, whether it's candidates that she endorsed, like Zohar Mamdani, who want to give everything away for free, or whether it's, I always explain Kathy Hochul's reign of terror as a time of overreach, right? That's her MO. She's just completely overreaching into everything and anything that she can. Start with criminal justice reform and cashless bail. She overreached into criminal justice, into policing in New York State, and has turned it into a disaster, and has only made the more dangerous and violent communities more dangerous and violent. Then you go what we were dealing with for what seems like forever, her trying to take away your local zoning rights from towns and villages. Why? Because she wanted to be the boss. And like you said, she wants to do, overdevelopment. You talk about the Clean Slate Act. You talk about,
Reduce the age.
how about gun-free zones in Midtown Manhattan? Or how about the worst, and something that me and you fight for every single day, is her disastrous destruction of our oceans and our beaches with offshore wind.
Right. So the reason I brought this up, it's certainly important to most New Yorkers, but the young people don't get it. Maybe they're not paying their own electrical, but why am I bringing this up? Why is she doing this? Because it all comes down to exactly what happened with the shutting down of the government, the DSA, the Democrat, communists of America. This was driven, I saw it firsthand, by these children, literally children, putting their thumb on the scale, pressuring a weak Speaker of the House, right, Speaker Carl Hastie, into passing this piece of legislation. Now we have Zohar Mamdani in New York City, or we'll have him there at any moment. You see who his appointments are. Do you think we're going to have even more of this type of legislation going in?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that Zoran is going to be pushing legislation that you guys are going to have to entertain in the state. And I think that what we're going to see, or what we have seen already in the first week of his being mayor-elect, is that Kathy Hochul's pretty scared, because she realizes that she stood on that stage and held up his hand and said, "I endorse this guy."
Kathy Hochul, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, Carl Hastie, all of the weaklings. And when I sit there, I see it live and in person.
Hakeem Jeffries, who's calling the shots in the House of Representatives.
You say to yourself, oh, they're not going to do it. You literally see them standing there like little girls, afraid of being primaried. I said it before, I'll say it again. I have colleagues, nice people, but they're extremely far to the left. I mean, liberal as they come. And they're scared, and they are being primaried by the DSA. They can't be liberal unless they're going to say, kill the baby, put him back into the mother, and kill him again a second time. You're out. You're going to be primary.
Think about, just to talk about, think about some of the things that were demanded by the DSA to Zoran, with just with regards to Israel, right? Because we have a big Jewish listenership. I mean, I said those demands look like they were written. Forget written in New York City. They look like they were written in Gaza.
He's going to arrest Prime Minister
Netanyahu.
Incredible. He's going to shut down any type of not funding. Certainly New York doesn't fund Israel.
Implement BDS.
Investment. Implement BDS. And you're going to see a lot of it will be moved forward. The city council is a disgrace. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle, they're disgraceful. Not one of them spoke out against
And
them.
in addition to that, you're going to see some of it happen organically. Why? Because you're going to have weak business leaders. You're going to have weak individuals in certain communities that want to, kiss up to Zoran, and that's exactly what's going to happen.
You saw that happen with President Trump. You had Gates and all these tech people went against him. Zuckerberg during his last election. All of a sudden, they're coming around. Well, it wasn't my fault. I felt, but the richest men in the world, Fred Bezos, felt pressure, and now they're coming back to this side. You're correct. Yeah. There's going to be a wave of anti-Semitism and weakness among the Democrats. I just wish we Republicans, not just you and me, would stand strong. Our voices aren't as loud as they should be. We're lucky. We're in Nassau County. Today's Newsday had a lauding article about Chairman Cairo and Bruce Blakeman. And I know they really meant to throw you in that as well, about the strong force in Nassau County like never before. If Newsday is expounding those virtues, we know that it's absolutely true. for once they got it right. But my point is, we are an island unto ourselves. We don't see that anywhere else in the country. We didn't have significant losses, but there were losses that shouldn't have happened, whether it's gubernatorial or elsewhere. Why is it that we don't see this strong leadership except for the chairman and maybe the president, Bruce? Where is everybody else?
Well, I think organization is key. Chairman Cairo always talks about the fact that we are a team and that elected officials come and go, but the party is always there. And I think that there's real meaning to that. I mean, I have been blessed to travel the entire United States of America and campaign with and for colleagues throughout the country. And I say it all the time, and I don't just say it because I feel obligated to. I say it because it's the truth. There is nowhere else in the United States of America that has political organizations like we have in Nassau and Suffolk. Between Chairman Garcia and Chairman Cairo, I mean, the Nassau County Republican Committee has always been historically a political powerhouse. I mean, back to the days of Chairman Margiotta and Chairman Mondello, and now Chairman Cairo. But I think that
like
now
we're
never before because we need it like never before. And I think that we are, Chairman Cairo is getting the praise that he deserves. Why? Because there is no leadership anywhere else.
Why isn't the rest of our party learning from this?
Because there's a lot of selfish people in both parties, and I think that far too often elected officials get ahead of themselves, and they think that they are the most important people in the room.
Could you imagine? We have the recipes there to bake this cake.
Yeah.
And they keep making the same stupid mistakes. They still cower in fear of a child like AOC and Mamdani.
And I think we also have, we have great candidates. We have great candidates and good issues. And, I'll say this. I think that it's very often that that we're criticized, whether it's by Newsday or other news outlets, saying that, individuals who run in the Nassau County Republican Committee usually are, come from a lineage of Republican elected officials or Republican supporters.
We're very diverse.
And we are very diverse.
And I'm a guy with a yarmulke. We got Mazi from Ethiopia.
And I think that under Chairman Cairo's leadership, the tent of the Nassau County Republican Party has never been bigger. But I will also say that, that criticism of bringing people up through the party is not a bad thing, because it teaches you what it takes to become an elected official, to understand the petition process, to understand the hard work of knocking on doors, of doing walkthroughs, of showing up, of raising money. So there's a lot to be said about people who come up through the.
You've actually brought this full circle in the most eloquent way. I had just written an article last night prior to the announcement of the Electric Building Act, going down temporarily. And my point was, Kathy Hochul didn't even bother asking a guy who's been in the business for 50 years. Over 50 years, I've been in this industry. Ask me if I know what's going to happen, if she's going to implement.
She doesn't care.
But the same thing happens in my trades. Did I just appear out of nowhere and started swinging a hammer, or did I start up as an apprentice and work my way up? Exactly as you had just explained how the government should run, function, and continue to grow. Excellent, Congressman. What's the next step? Where do we go from here?
Well, we'll see. I think that, we have interesting times across the country. I want to, I guess, focus on the fact that, after the day after Election Day, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, they came out and they said that, the Democratic Party is back. I mean, let's be honest. They won in New Jersey, which is a blue state. They won in Virginia, which is a blue state. They won in the city of New York, which is whatever's further than blue. So I mean, you didn't really win anything that really shakes things up. I will say that they did have some victories in Pennsylvania in Republican strongholds that flipped Democrat. But again, I think that what it comes down to here is that we have less than a year to the midterm elections, and we need to make sure that all of the candidates, or everyone who's going to be on the ballot next year, is unified. We need to make sure that we are running and rowing the boat together, that we are all on message, that we are talking about the progress of President Trump. We're talking about the wins that we've seen here in Nassau County and Hempstead.
Congressman, we're on the same page. I was kind of leading into something else. I know we're into the last few minutes of the show. I refuse to believe that the nation doesn't see the greatness of what's happening. Gas prices are down, egg prices are down, the economy is growing. there's peace in the world
Yeah.
like never before, and yet this has happened. Has there been, and there has been talk of voter fraud once again?
I mean, listen, I think that here in New York State, I think we're pretty solid on voter. I mean, I sat on the House Administration Committee, who has oversight of all elections in the United States of America, and I will tell you there are some places throughout this country where voting is a disaster. And one of the things of many things that are on President Trump's priority list is to really straighten out elections. But here in New York, I think we're in a good place, and I think that again, we need to focus on the wins and the progress that President Trump has made in the United States of America. And when you say, are people catching on? I think they are. I think that perhaps a lot of people aren't on social media saying how proud they are of the work that President Trump is doing. Maybe they're not hanging a President Trump flag outside of their house. Maybe, we live on the South Shore. They're not flying that Trump flag from their beautiful boat. But they realize, and they ask themselves, either when they're sitting at the dinner table with their family or before they go to bed at night, that simple question that I always pose to people: are you better off today than you were a year and a half ago? And the answer is, yeah, we're far damn better off, right? We have a secure border, we have peace, we have economic investment into the United States of America like we've never seen before. We passed the big beautiful bill, which is the largest tax cut in the nation's history. And lastly, I think that right now where we are, I've read polls recently where President Trump's approval rating is higher than most presidents at this time in their administration. But there is a downfall to that. It's also that there's still a lot of violence in this country. I mean, part of one of the polls I read the other day, not only was President Trump, and they weren't comparing, it had nothing to do with President Trump, but President Trump numbers were through the roof. But another part of the poll, just tested political differences, and the number of people who are unfortunately concerned about a public official being assassinated, the numbers are through the roof. And that's a sad state of affairs for this country.
Until we fix the education system that's pushing this left-wing crazy agenda, it's never going to change. Everything you said is true. We have an expression, a Jewish expression of lo shaveh matai. If not now, when? If this can't happen with all the wonderful things happening in the world, it isn't going to happen. I think we're near the end of our show.
Well, thank everyone for tuning in. It's great to always be with my good friend, Assemblyman Ari Brown, 102.7 FM and WSNR 620 AM.
Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Until next week, God bless and stay safe.
Okay, gentlemen. I guess you're a little short this week.